Good evening. The last time we were talking about the symptom of when the less complex system is prioritized above and at the expense of the more complex system. This is one of the symptoms. This is the last symptom that I took. And I wanted to give another example of it, at least one more example. And that is if a company in Milwaukee would go down to Houston being rewarded with free taxes, let's say for 10 years in Houston. And if that company would accept that, this would be the less complex of the systems. The more complex would be the whole city of Milwaukee. Milwaukee would lose the company and all the jobs, and not just the jobs, but the taxes. And the new big system would also be a loser, because they would have to give special reward to the company, and therefore the rest of the people would have to pay the taxes that company is not going to pay for 10 years. So both of the more complex systems, both the cities have to pay the cost of the reward of the less complex. So it is not for the common good. So when it's not for the common good that a less complex system is prioritized, this is a symptom of the rewards and punishment syndrome. And I have one more example of that, and that is the many companies which got rewarded from states, southern states like Texas, maybe cities down there. They would leave Milwaukee and they go down there where they would get a better deal. They would be rewarded by going down south. And those cities would have to pay the price, and also Milwaukee and Chicago would lose that industry, would lose the tax dollars and the jobs. So both larger systems would be paying for it. Then when they use up all the worthwhile things in a city in Texas, then they start looking farther south. They want to go to Mexico. So they leave Texas and go to Mexico. And then maybe Mexico, they use up all their resources or whatever they can get from Mexico, and then maybe they go somewhere else. So these smaller systems are being rewarded at the expense of, these less complex are being rewarded at the expense of the more complex systems. And this is all a symptom of the rewards and punishment syndrome. Okay, a system is a cycle of activity by other less complex parts within it which work together in an orderly pattern. A tree is a system, for example. A system is always found with other systems within another more complex system. The more complex system to which a tree belongs would be an ecological system. Under rewards and under natural systems work together, exchanging resources for survival while protecting the survival of the most complex system of which they form a part. For example, trees give oxygen, animals manure, etc., and the whole system works together. The following is a description of what I call the rewards and punishment syndrome. It is the favoring or rewarding of the needs of certain lesser systems within them against the common good of the whole system, within a larger system, against the common good of that larger, more complex system. For example, we can reward and or punish certain people and things with bribes or violence. The reward and punishment syndrome meets the needs of a certain part of a system over and against other parts' needs, which in turn affects negatively the whole system. For example, as a king can reward townspeople over peasants by giving townspeople extra food, with the peasants as a result not getting enough. And this would cause problems with the overall system, because you'd have enemies between the city people and the country people. You'd be making enemies, and that does not help a system, a country. That doesn't help. Systems needs are sometimes called interests. A nation has interests. Their satisfaction is a part of natural evolution when it does not go against the common good of the most complex system involved, of which the systems are parts. For example, a nation's interest in land is satisfied naturally when the nation obtains it with peaceful and non-manipulative means. For example, let's say they want more land and they buy it from another country nearby for a fair price, and nobody is taking anybody in any way. Nobody is manipulating anything. But meeting addictive needs is the aim of rewards and or punishment. An alcoholic may have an addictive need for a liquor. When a system has a desperate need and is therefore in an imbalanced state, it can be more easily tricked into accepting an illegitimate, illusory satisfaction of a need. This comes at the cost of resources from another part of the system. An example of this would be a tribe's chieftain accepting money in exchange for part of a valuable forest. The chieftain's interest might be based on an addictive need for money. The satisfaction of a foreign power's addictive interest in the forest, in this case, would also be part of the reward and punishment syndrome. Imbalance occurs when only part of this system is rewarded by resources. The chieftain's family and friends are rewarded. Meanwhile, serious needs of some other parts go unmet, and imbalance increases as the system's rewarded part continues to receive resources. Since authentic needs of the whole are not satisfied, the less complex system tends to continue seeking satisfaction by repeatedly and addictively accepting the illusion of satisfaction. The chieftain might say, "Could I have some more money so that I feel better?" But money does not do the trick for him. Let's say his real need is love, and he already had enough money. So money is just an addiction for him. It is not a real need. The most basic need for everyone is love, so that's behind any addictive need. But if someone already has more money than they can use, and it's hard even for them to manage that money, to look for more money would be and shows a sign of addiction. Syndromes are created in the interconnected and exponentially growing pathological processes of rewards and punishments. A syndrome has begun between the chieftain's nation and the foreign power. Syndromes operate in cycles in more complex systems, consuming part of them and thereby causing a progressive degeneration in them. In the syndrome, distant systems become more closely connected, that is, integrated, while other systems which were more closely connected become more distant, that is, disintegrated. The chieftain no longer trades with neighboring nations and only trades with the formerly distant foreigners that he's been dealing with. He no longer deals with people within his own nation either, who were affected negatively by the loss of forest. That's all for today, and thank you for listening.